Now, I'm here in the home of Michael Pixie O'Gorman and in North Kerry, and here this evening in What Matters programme we're discussing the debacle, as it were, the national scandal, as it were, of Irish water and its carry on with the incredible 5,000 or 4,999 to be exact bonuses that have been paid to 600 members of Irish Water. Michael, it begs belief, in my books anyway, that the thousands and thousands and thousands that actually protested in Dublin last Saturday against the involvement of Irish Water in anything to do with water, also water charges, it must be galling for these people to realise that nearly €5,000 lump sum has been paid to 600 members of staff, gilt-edged health insurance, and a free in-house gym. I mean, you wouldn't get that in any other country.
Well, since Irish Water has been set up, I've been on record a lot of times saying it's been the biggest quango of the country. It was like a retirement home for county managers who had retired and suddenly found themselves in Irish Water for their expertise. And all the bonuses that came out last Sunday about new cars and money for cars and health insurance for everyone and all new gym equipment. But I remember there 2 years ago they spent, I think it was 5,000 on laughing meditation courses for their workers, and I think that still carries through. Irish Water and the people that are involved with are working on Irish Water, they are laughing at the public, and even with these new Dáil committee reports, Simon Coveney made it very clear at the time that Irish Water was not to be discussed in the committee, so it can be still established after the committee. And the reason that has been is that he's given out big 20-year contracts already. Irish Water is a limited company and it has borrowed hundreds of millions already, so you can't just get rid of Irish Water, and so it's going to be kept alive and it's going to be paid for through our general taxations. But Irish Water itself, that money is being wasted. Instead of that money being put into the pipes and the infrastructure, we have gym equipment and we have laughing meditation and all this, and it's just it's probably the biggest waste of money ever in the state. Fianna Fáil got bashed years ago, rightly so, for the vote machines. I think it was 50 million.
That's right.
And Simon Coveney, I think, is terrified that with the failure of the charges and all of that, that Fine Gael will be beat over the head with this.
But people are not going to pay. It's as simple as that. They will not pay water charges. Am I right on that?
The people won't. And when we were out canvassing last year, and I said it on the radio at that time, and they said, how can you be so confident? And the reason I was confident was, like, I'd gone to the protests and I'd seen the hundreds of thousands of people and how passionate they were out in the streets about it. But what really shocked me was when I was canvassing and went to the doors, and people who would never go to a protest and have never been to a protest had their water bills. And once we mentioned we were with Right to Water, they went and got their bills and showed us and said we didn't pay, and we were blown away by the amount of people, especially the older people. They just said no, we're not paying. But Simon Coveney he wants to bring in, if people are using large amounts of water, and fines for swimming pools and all this lark. But that is only another way of keeping the payment open and the money supply to Irish Water, because it will be the same as the bins. When we had the bin charges, it's only going to cost this much and these people will be covered. But we know what happens. Look what the way charges for bins have risen, and it will be the same with water and water fines. Is that you'll get less and less water, and then you'll just start getting more, and it's going to be billing in through the back door. But people aren't going to fall for that.
The one thing is that I remember the now Commissioner for Ireland in Brussels, Phil Hogan, the famous Phil Hogan, and he's the sort of the actual arrogance of the man before he went to Brussels, that we'll reduce people's water supply to a trickle if they don't pay. That type of arrogance is still there in the present government, because Simon Coveney may have the best will in the world. I was listening to another junior minister, Patrick O'Donovan, over the weekend, and he was saying you can put frills and dills on it, but the EU laws have to be obeyed. Isn't that the core of the problem, Michael? That this present government, maybe Fianna Fáil as well, are so aligned to Europe, they're afraid to rock the boat and say the people have said no, we're not paying, we can't pay, we can't afford to pay, and use some other method of funding. But the government are just afraid to say that.
Well, another the Fine Gael chief whip the weekend said it was the biggest blunder, Irish Water, and the biggest cock-up, were her words, ever. The failure of Fine Gael to introduce these waters and the whole way they went about it, and that includes the likes of Phil Hogan threatening people to turn off their water to a trickle. If you just think about that there, just think maybe of your grandparents or people living on small pensions and being told to a trickle of water, that type of a threat. We wouldn't put up with that with a bully from next door. But yeah, we had a minister threatening people that he would turn the water down. And I think that's how far lost Fine Gael and out of touch with the people were, that they were allowed to use that language and thought he'd get away with it. And what you're saying about the whole EU, and we had to follow their rules because their rules are the golden rules and there's no other rules, only EU rules. Well, follow the same logic on Apple, the 13 billion, which our government are going to spend hundreds of millions again fighting, so that Apple don't have to pay the Irish people. And they even made the thing saying that they paid us all the money. It made they owe money to other countries in Europe, but they don't owe the money to the Irish people. Well, Luke Flanagan asked the lady that done that report in the European Commission on that issue especially, and the way she explained it to Luke Flanagan about the Apple was, she said, if you have newspaper agencies, they only get money for selling the newspaper. They don't get the money that newspaper makes overall. That's not split between the news agents. So that is the same with all the shops, Apple shops throughout Europe. Their head office in Cork is in Cork. So the money is actually owed to the office in Cork. So 13 to 19 billion is owed to the Irish people. But we have the Irish government outside there fighting the EU on that. But when it comes to the water, we're dancing on. Now, the River Basin Plan, we sent in one, they're waiting for our second one, and that hasn't been sent in yet. And until that is sent in, that legal challenge is still open to us. And I can't believe it wasn't brought up in the Oireachtas committee, but the second basin plan, European Basin Plan for Ireland, hasn't been sent to EU yet. So as far as I can see in my readings, we haven't actually signed up to that, and there has been never a practice of paying for water through billing in the country. And so the general practice in this country is we pay through general taxation, which is the fairest way, and it makes sure that no person in this country suffers from water poverty. We have poverty in food banks, we have homelessness, we have 2,500 people, 2,500 kids sleeping in hotel rooms. We have huge amounts of problems, but we don't have water poverty, which they do in some countries in Europe and in America already.
Very good. Well, we'll just take a quick break. We're going to be discussing other issues that are very pertinent to people's lives. Evictions. Over 6,000 cases, repossession cases now before the courts in the 26 counties. That's 6,000 family homes and men, women and children that will be evicted from their homes. We're going to come to that as well. This is a part of a series of On the Road What Matters, where we will be talking to Michael and other people in Kerry and County Limerick, discussing these very issues as they happen every week. Join us shortly.